All right, good morning, everybody. Another early one here on the West Coast. All right, thanks for being there. All right, today we're going to talk about what to do with those other notes. All right? But before we get into that, some theory. All right, your basic factory issue scale, and most of you know this stuff, right? I mean, most of you have this. So, a good deal of this lesson is for your introductory sax players who are just starting to get into the craft of soloing, improvising, creating things from nothing with your horns. And this is aimed at you, okay? So a lot of you get to tune this out because you already know your majors and minors, all your scales, right? You get all that dialed in, right? Of course you do. So here we go. Let's start with your basic factory issue scale, right? Starts with a note that we'll call the root, and it ends 8 notes later in the octave of that root. You can kind of say the root and its octave bookend the rest of the notes that are in any major scale. 8 notes, right? 8 notes in a scale, major, minor. We'll just call majors for today, okay? And we're going to number those notes 1 through 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, right? Maybe you've seen that before and wondered, what the heck is that all about? Well, now you know. That gives us a handy reference point to call out notes, right? And talk about them, as I'm going to do right now. Okay, so you've heard that you ought to practice scale arpeggios as well. I'm sure you've heard the word arpeggio, which is a fancy word that means basically the scale tones that have been separated out from the scale. All right, in this case, we'll say the root, the third note, and the fifth note. That's the triad, the basic triad that forms a chord. 1, the 3, and the 5, or every other note from the root. Whoa, is this easy or what? Yeah, theory doesn't have to be all that hard. Well, you can make it hard if you want. And it gets harder later, but for now, let's just keep it easy. So the 1, the 3, and the 5. All right, we're going to work in concert C today. All right, concert C. Where's my horn? For you B-flat people, that'll be a D major scale. For you E-flat friends, that'll be your A major scale, all right? So your major triad, D major triad, or concert C major triad, it's going to be a D and an F sharp and an A. 1, 3, and 5, right? A, C sharp, and E if you're blowing an E-flat horn this morning, okay? All right, now we can also add a 7 to that, all right? We can add the 7, and we can make it a major 7, all right? And again, we just add one more note, the 7th note in the scale. And again, we're still playing every other note. In this case, it'll be D, F sharp, A, C sharp. That's the 7th note in the D major scale, right? A, C sharp, E, G sharp will be the 7th note in your A major scale. All right, let me play it for you. Beautiful, isn't it? Doesn't that sound happy? Right, like nothing left to be done there. In fact, that's a love song, just those 4 notes, right? Let's check it out. Nice, right? Well, any of the notes in that, we're talking that 8-note scale now, you know as well as I do that they all repeat after the octave. Nothing strange happens. It's just they repeat, right? They're just 1 octave higher. And in the parlance of music discussion, we increase each of those numbers by a count of 7, right? So the 2nd note in the scale now becomes the 9. The 4th note in the scale now becomes the 11. And the 6th note in the scale now becomes the 13, right? 9, 11, and 13, right? Those are essentially called non-chord tones, but they become valuable. Some would like to call them jazz extensions, right? 9, 11, 13. Let's put the 9 on our D major 7, and let's just see what that does to it. What was that 9th note that we played? You would be right in getting extra points if you said it was E. Yeah, it was the second note in the original 8-note scale. Since we've gone up the octave tree, it is now the 9, right? E, D, F sharp, A, C sharp, E. Check it out. Could anything be easier? You got this. I know you got this, okay? So the 11 is going to be the fourth note in that scale. In a D major scale, what's the fourth note? You said E? Did you say E? No, it's G. G is the fourth note in that scale, right? And there are ways that that G can really sound bad, and there are ways that that G can really sound good if it's, again, played as a jazz extension. And, down the road, you may see that as a sharp 11 or a flat 11, depending on the nature of the chord itself. Doesn't matter. All right, a 13 is going to be the sixth note in a D scale, which is B, right? B, right? D, B. Sixth note in the scale is B. That becomes the 13 after the octave. Alto sax, friends, A, C sharp, E, G sharp is going to be your A major 7. If we add the 9, that's going to be B, A, C sharp, E, G sharp, B octave, right? The 11 is going to be the D, and the 13 is going to be that top F sharp. That goes way up there. I'm not going to play that in the tenor sax today because the hounds are in the studio with me here today, and they start howling if I play super high notes early in the morning. So do my neighbors, but that's a different story. All right, so there you go. You've got some now. Those of you who aren't jazz students or students of that art, or perhaps rhythm and blues or gospel or blues or whatever, funk, rock, you're sitting there going, why should I learn the jazz extensions? It's just what we call them. Just take the word jazz out of it. Just call them chord extensions, okay? Because they become extraordinarily useful in coloring what you're playing. And it's been said before, of course, that if you don't have a little jazz in what you're playing as a soloist, no matter what the genre that you're in, that it's not going to be that interesting. I kind of think that. So anyway, let's go back to your basic D7. Let's call it, well, if we started with the D major 7, right? It's early, I know. My mind wanders. Back on track. We started at the D major triad. Then we added the 7, made it a D major 7. Now, what if we alter that 7 a little bit? What if we play a D dominant? And those of you who haven't seen a D dominant 7, D major 7, you're going to see the letter D, right? And then major, M-A-J, or a triangle, that's shorthand for major. And then the 7, right? D dominant 7 is just the letter D, right? Which is the root with the number 7 and nothing in between them. That's a contract, that 7, that says lower it by a half step. Now we have a Mixolydian chord, or the arpeggio to make a Mixolydian chord. Now that sounds like movement, doesn't it, right? D major 7. Nothing to be done there, right? We're home, safe harbor, happiness, breakfast. We're going to go in and eat. But this one, we lower the 7 and make it a D dominant 7. Ooh, now that lowered 7 wants to move. It wants to go somewhere. It wants to make your listeners, feel happy after they've heard that. But look, what if we added the 9 to that? And this is such a good way to practice, by the way. All right, we took it all the way up to the 9. The D dominant 7, we put the 9 on it. That sounded kind of cool, didn't it? Kind of had that sort of urban, big city sound. For you alto friends, or E flat friends, A, C sharp, E, G, We'll turn that into an A dominant 7, and we're going to tag the B, all right, the 9 on the end of that. Now, here's where things get really interesting for you as creators. What if you put a flat 9 on the end of that dominant? Check this out. And I added a little chromatic passing tone before I hit the D. Because I can. It's my video. Don't complain. Doesn't that sound spooky? Doesn't that sound like it's really making a statement now, and it really wants to resolve or move to the next happy chord, right? Movement. It creates the illusion of movement in music. So if you have any questions, davegoodsax at gmail.com. All right, we can dive a little bit deeper into these these lofty subjects, but as I hope I've, at least in this exercise today, pointed out, that theory doesn't have to be all that hard, okay? Based on what you know, you can take any of the 12 scales and you can create, and you can break them out into the major triads. We'll talk about minors another time. Major triads, major 7s, dominant 7s, and you can stick a 9 on the end of that, or you can stick a flat 9 on the end of that. Experiment around today. Stick a flat 9, then stick the 11 on the end of it, then tag it with the 13. Sharp the 13, flat the 13, flat the 11. Do those things and listen to how they sound, and think about those as more tools in the toolkit that you have that goes along with your saxophone, the invisible toolkit, right? Which is stuff that you know, okay? I'm gonna take this off, bring some coffee. You too, I hope you have a great day today. I hope you play, just play the heck out of your saxophone and have fun. And again, any questions or comments, you know how to tag this video in the comment sections below. Dave Goodmail, don't go there. davegoodsax at gmail.com. Talk to you. That's all I got. See you tomorrow.